This week's episode of Picking and Putting. I'm here from the corporate studios in Charlotte, North Carolina, knocking my microphone around. Well, I'm joined today by Liberty Bill, our usual sidekick, coming from the basement studios today of his Chicago Cubs South studios. How you doing, Bill?
Oh, I'm a White Sox fan now. The Cubs are not trying to win, so I had a great time actually at the White Sox game last week. They're a fun team to watch, and I'm all in on the White Sox.
Well, that's kind of a little bit like being a homer. Like I'm either a Tarbuck or a Bucka heel, so it depends on which team's doing better. Well, who you got for a shout out? I got two, but I'll do mine because yours are probably nicer or cooler. I got a shout out for Xander Schauffele and Nelly Corda. I don't know if she's going to end up winning, but if she does, that's 2 golds in golf for America. So good for them. They're both they represent golf and the U.S. pretty well. So pretty cool. She and her sister are something to watch, man. They're awesome.
And they've both been scrutinized for not coming through in the clutch, right? So for them to actually, well, Xander's already done it, but if Nelly goes on to win the gold medal at the Olympics, you can kind of knock that critique off of them.
Oh yeah. I think both of them will go on to win multiple majors. I think Xander, this will open a door for him. And the coolest part about this for him was that his father was there. And his father was an Olympic athlete that got, I forget, did he lose vision? Partial vision, I guess.
Wow.
Yeah, he lost partial vision in an accident, and that's what kept him out of the Olympics. So he was living his dad's dream. So
that's a great story. I didn't hear that one.
Yeah, in fact, the night he won the medal last weekend, his dad got to sleep with the medal.
Oh wow, that's incredible.
Yeah, that's a pretty good story. I like that one. Well, who are your shout outs for?
That's actually a good segue. I was going to start with the Olympics. Team USA's April Ross and Alex Kleinman. I stayed up for this last night. They won the gold in beach volleyball. They only lost 1 set in 7 matches, the whole run. And this is the first time the U.S. ladies have won gold since, you might remember this name, Misty May and Carrie Walsh Jennings won 3 straight titles from 2004 to 2012. So there'd been a 8-year, I guess, 1 Olympic gap, but those ladies just dominated. And that's been the one sport that outside of the normal sports that I watch, that I've really enjoyed. And now tonight, we've got the U.S. men's basketball going for the rematch against France for the gold. We got the U.S. ladies basketball going for the gold. And then at 6 a.m. tomorrow on Saturday, you've got U.S. men's baseball, a hodgepodge of 40-year-old has-beens and 20-year-old prospects. They're going for the gold against Japan. So a lot of fun stuff going on over there.
Well, it's, beach volleyball is interesting. That's one of those things. It's like volleyball in general. I wouldn't watch that. That would be on ESPN 48, But,
the Ocho.
Yeah, the Ocho. And, it's like cornhole, but
That's on tonight. The Cornhole World Championships are on tonight.
Yeah, they're from South Carolina. Well, it's crazy, though. When you watch it in that event, it's like watching ski jumping at the Olympics when those guys fly. It's just, for some reason, you get involved, and there you only got 4 people, when you're watching beach volleyball.
And that's what makes it so fun. It's so quick, and you can watch each of the athletes. And the other thing they mentioned last night on the broadcast, I hadn't thought about it, they bumped back the time. So it was happening at like 11:30 Tokyo time to try to get it prime time here. It was hot. That sand is hot. They were like, it was like 100 degrees on the sand, so they had to spray it with water, but still. And to your point, it's just 2 of those ladies running around. I really enjoyed watching that.
Yeah, if you want to watch people beat up in each other, watch water polo.
That's also a fun one.
That's like watching a bunch of weightlifters beat the crap out of each other in water. I mean, these guys, yeah. So anyways.
And then I got one more. I want to give a shout out to Toronto and the Toronto Blue Jays. Finally, the Raptors had to play this year in Tampa. The Blue Jays had been playing in Florida. Then they moved to Buffalo. Finally, last Friday, they got back to Toronto. And I tell you what, they're only 2.5 games out of the wild card race. They're basically going head to head with the Yankees. It's very easy for me to cheer against the Yankees. So go Blue Jays. You got fans in the stands. You're back in Canada, back at home. They have, I guess, a 41% chance of making the playoffs as of today. So I am on the Blue Jays and White Sox bandwagons.
Well, you're going to want to watch their video that's gone viral today. It's August 6th, 2021. They've got a viral from their locker, from their clubhouse, where they got the lights down and they're doing a disco.
Oh, wow. They're having a party. Well, they got Vladimir Guerrero Jr. That's their ringleader. He's a fun guy.
They're having a party, but one of the guys on Sports Center said they need a new DJ because their dancing surely looked awful. They were like doing line dancing or something. Anyways, look that up.
I will.
Really kick out of that. Well, today we were going to talk about upcoming college football season, which is the beginning of the end of a transition in college football for the next decade, but especially the next 5 years is going to be crazy. But first of all, I want to talk about the song Coming to Your City.
Big and Rich.
And I want to tell you that when you look up the history of Coming to Your City and Big and Rich, I've just told you everything that you can find about it. No, actually, it was their second studio album. It came out in 2005. And it's been the song. I mean, think about it. It's probably made their lives because it's the song of College Game Day for the last 15 years. This will be the 16th season. And that is, at least if I remember right, memory serves me right, last year, that was the most watched television show on cable TV.
I'm sure.
And the first 5 minutes, the opening 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes with the headgear, people just, I never miss the opening 5 minutes and the last 5 minutes.
And do you watch any other, I mean, I'm sure you run into them, but do you go out of your way to watch any other pregame show in sports?
No.
And I'm with you there.
I'll turn on if I'm at home watching the pro football, I'll channel surf around them, but they work so hard to be funny and stuff. And I don't get much out of them, In fact, when I would watch those at all, I'm more likely to watch the early edition on ESPN for a little bit because it was more information bound because they're on for about 22 hours. They come on.
And there's no atmosphere in the NFL, and every NFL stadium's the same. They don't have the big tailgating. It's different. College Game Day is a special thing, and I'm glad ESPN has not managed to screw it up.
Well, I had that data. They left the studio and started doing the on-site shows in 1993.
Okay.
So that 28 years.
So I don't even remember it being in the studio. I was 9 years old at that time.
Well, and they changed around. I think in the beginning it was the guy who does the games with Herb Street. He was the original.
It was Fowler. For years. And then Fowler negotiated because he wanted to do play-by-play. And I was a little worried about that. But Fowler has turned out to be really good at play-by-play, and Reese Davis has slid seamlessly into that chair. Yeah, and they just keep. And then they've added contributors: Desmond Howard, David Pollack. They've kind of loosened the reins on Corso. And they brought in the Bear, and I guess Herb Street really advocated to have the Bear talk on air and provide those gambling insights. So they've continued to evolve, but stuck to their core brand. And Catherine, my wife, that's the only pregame show she wants to watch. Everybody loves that show. Yeah,
well, as long as, by the way, I'm supporting Seattle University here, the Red Hawks, because my son got his master's degree there. But in relation to game day, the other thing you always look for is the Washington State University flag. It has not missed a show in 30 years.
That is I forgot about that. That is that's part of the mystique of the show at this point.
And there's somebody, I forget this. That's a good story. We should look that up. Somebody, they make a point of traveling. It's not just that the locals hang the flag. I think somebody actually goes Pullman to wherever the heck the game day show is. So, well, the names of these guys, let me go through it. Big Kenny on vocals.
Big Kenny.
Big Kenny and John Rich on the acoustic guitar. And the additional musicians that they have are like 20. So I ain't naming all those guys. Sorry, guys. And the guy that switched in and they switched the lyrics around that you see on the thing is named Cowboy Troy. I can picture Cowboy Troy. I don't, the one guy that's out there with the boots and the cowboy hat. And it got to 21. It peaked at 21 on country, 62 in pop.
Oh, wow. I didn't know it got that high.
Yep. They have visited 100 cities. And if you want to get a little zing in your zing-zang, if you want a little ching in your ching-chang, come along, because you're coming to your city.
Save a horse, ride a cowboy. That's their other.
Yeah, right, yeah. Well, yeah. I forgot about that. That's their other, their other thing. But I mean, they obviously go in the. They go in. I've always wondered where they go in the studio, but I wonder where they go, because they obviously do a new intro every year. And
yeah.
Where they're recording those, if it's at some campus or just generically on a stage somewhere, I don't know.
It's a good question.
It's a good question, but I don't have the answer to that.
I've been to game day. The last time and only time they were at Iowa in 2006 when Troy Smith and Anthony Gonzalez and James Laurinaitis, and I don't think Ted Ginn was on that team, or he was hurt, came into town at number 2 in the nation. It was a night game, which was a rare thing at Iowa. And the number one thing I remember, Kirk Herbstreit comes out on Friday to do the Sports Center hit, not the full game day, just the kind of 5-minute Sports Center hit. He comes out wearing a red tie, messing with the crowd, rips it off, puts on a gold tie, and he was really playing to the crowd. And then they sat down, and they were all wearing jeans. They had the nice jacket and tie and shirt. They were all wearing jeans. And Kirk Herbstreit, I think I've said this on this podcast before, but I want to say it again. He is a phenomenal analyst. And when it comes to, and Jay Billis the same way, right. He has no bias towards Ohio State. If anything, he's more critical towards Ohio State. And in a world where a lot of media right now is fanboys and blogs and basically PR for team, to have an actual objective journalist helping bring us information to the game. Shout out to Kirk Herbstreit. Love that guy.
Yeah, I thought it was funny that, now some of that has to do with television and entertainment business, but he claimed he moved out of Columbus with all his boys because he was always under pressure for not being pro-Ohio State, so he moved to Nashville. But I also think Nashville's an entertainment center, so it had a lot better.
And it's probably a lot less pressure on his kids, too.
Yeah, and he's got a bunch of boys, I think, so. Well, what I was going to get into with it, the college football season coming up, Labor Day is a huge weekend, and
in Charlotte specifically.
Well, yeah, that's Georgia Clemson, but
well, no, it's Thursday night. It's App State, East Carolina. Friday night, Charlotte versus Duke, and then Saturday, Georgia Clemson. You could go to 3 big time games in a row in Charlotte.
I had a Clemson grad that is known to you tell me that he was upset that App was going to play on Thursday and tear up the field before Georgia Clemson.
It's turf now.
I know, that's what I told him. I said it's turf. Anyways, the games that are going to come up. I don't know if I love this idea unless you like my son Christopher said, unless you had home and homes or something. Okay, so Georgia Clemson, the winner of that game, the loser of that game is in the hole right from the get-go. Yeah, it's a big PR thing, makes a lot of money, but it puts, in terms of playoffs as it is set up right now.
Georgia has to win that game or they're done, because they're not going undefeated through the SEC. Clemson could go undefeated and beat Carolina in the ACC title game. Yeah, but I agree with you. And I miss that, because the new sport with the 12-team playoff, if you're Ohio State Clemson, you're in.
Well, think of that, though. There's some great – North Carolina plays at Virginia Tech with Sandman entrance going on.
On a Friday night, too. That's going to be a tough game.
I want to tell you, you want to go to a place that rocks. There are a lot of great places, like the place behind me, or Alabama or Auburn, whatever, Tennessee, But the entrance in at night at Virginia Tech, the stadium rocks. That place, back when the Beamer was there, man, I'll tell you what, and it still rocks. It's still it's a great place for a football game. Well, anyways, but the other games, think of all the other games. Florida State, Notre Dame plays at Florida State. Big game there. Imagine if Florida State knocks off Notre Dame early.
Oh, we can only hope.
Yeah. Sorry, Notre Dame, but yeah. But
and underrated, Iowa is number 18. Indiana is number 17. They're playing week 1. I like this. Normally week 1, it's Iowa versus Kent State, Ohio State versus Akron, UNC versus Wofford. It's a bunch of hot garbage. This year, we got big time games coming out of the chute, and I'm here for it.
Well, yeah, I'm here for it, but it's always, if you're a coach, it must just be terrifying because, a lot of these guys, you don't know what you got. Like
no preseason.
Ohio State doesn't know what they have at quarterback, for an example.
Yep.
Michigan doesn't know what they've got at quarterback.
Well, they never do, but
yeah, well, that's another story.
That's another podcast.
That's another podcast. But yeah, Indiana, that coach can coach,
and they brought pretty much their whole team back. That's going to be a really tough game.
That'll be a tough game. But you're right, to start off with a really important conference game. That's a little different, I guess, than the inter conference things. I guess. But like I said with Georgia and Clemson, but I don't know. I was saying again yesterday that I think it's going to be interesting because my take is that, and we'll see, but my take is you're going to have, and it's almost going to be NFL-like. You're going to have a Western Conference and an Eastern Conference in major college football. And it may be west of Mississippi, east of Mississippi. So everything that was left from the Big 12 debacle will be with the Pac-12 and all the other teams in there, Boise's or whatever. And the Big 10 and the SEC will merge. They'll be the Eastern Conference. And they'll have, whatever that number of teams is, 50. And then out of those, you'll keep the one thing you'll keep is the absolute rival. So UCLA, Southern Cal, Ohio State, Michigan, Arizona State, Arizona, Florida State. You keep all those kind of games, Iowa State, whatever. But you're going to lose. You can't help but lose some stuff in there,
it's already been lost with the Big Ten's expansion. And that was short-sighted, by the way, because that was focused on TV markets, which in a streaming world don't matter. Rutgers, Maryland, and Nebraska don't fit. But we already lost. Iowa didn't play Wisconsin for like 4 years in a row. It was ridiculous. And those are my buddies. That's the rival. Like, that's the community. College football is a local sport. It's a Midwest SEC sport. And ESPN is the real driver of this for short-term dollars. It's going to dilute the brand. It's going to end up being minor league football. And then, oh, by the way, if you have, like you say, 2 conferences with 32 teams each, what the hell do you need an NCAA tournament for? So now all of a sudden you're just going to have these super conferences with the big teams playing their own basketball tournament. So you're not going to have the upsets with the little schools anymore. So I think more players are going to go to the G League. Maybe something will develop similar in football. And college sports as we know it, they failed to evolve. ESPN kind of drove all this change. And I hate to kind of be that get off my lawn person, but I wish we had kind of the old BCS era and the old conferences with the traditional rivalries, because this is just going to feel like the NFL.
Well, you really feel bad. Where I really feel bad which was always a high caliber of football, for example, is the Mid-American Conference. So Miami of Ohio, Kent State,
Toledo, yep.
Toledo, Western Michigan, Central Michigan. There were some great programs, and they're going to be second tier. They're going to be like Division III.
And speaking of which, you brought up Notre Dame, a big test as to whether they can stay standalone. They're playing Toledo, and that game will be on Peacock. So if Notre Dame can get a bunch of people to pay for that subscription, they'll continue to be standalone. But if no one watches that game, they might come crawling to the ACC or the Big Ten.
I I I I I don't think they can hang on for as long as they want, but there's not going to be an independent player. And if they want to stay independent player and stream their own NBC Peacock crap, that's fine, but they won't be part of the 250-man league playoff.
Yeah,
So
they can play the Ivy League schools.
they'll be odd man out. They'll say, "Well, sorry guys, we have 6 spots for the Eastern Conference, 6 spots for the West, and we don't take independents." So, and that'll just force the alignment of anybody who's not, I mean, Boise's in a league, but the WAC, the AAC, for example, you've got a program like UCF that has become a major player,
It really has.
but they're in a non-dominant conference.
And they have Gus Malzahn now. I would argue, having been to the Pac-12, having been to Colorado, having been to a game at Arizona State, having been in the Rose Bowl, those facilities compared to SEC, ACC, Big Ten are decrepit. There's no money in sports out there. And that's the real discrepancy is the SEC, Big Ten, ACC put a lot of attention, a lot of money on the sports, and we'll see how the Pac-12 adapts. That's why they're not competing at the top. They don't put all the money into it.
Well, and here's another thing, just as an example, this kid who's the 5-star quarterback from Texas, who's gotten his degree, he did this. I don't even know how they do that now.
Yeah, reclassified and going to early.
They graduate from high school in 3 years, but I guess
I will say my senior year of high school was basically just one big party. So
yeah, so maybe they just go and do online classes or whatever. But anyways, Texas has a state law that you can't do the high school kids can't do the NIL stuff. So he was originally going to enroll at Texas, and he switched to Ohio State because he instantaneously walks on campus and has 7 figures coming into his pocket as a prospective starting quarterback.
Quinn Ewers.
And like Christopher said to me, talking about Coach Saban, said, "Well, why do you think the only reason he came out and said, oh, our quarterback hasn't even started it down, and he may already be making $1 million. You don't think that's a recruitment ploy?"
Of course.
Of course. Hey guys, you come here and you make big bucks at Alabama.
But you know what
But that's and I don't know, the hard part about all this, like you say, is the favorite sporting event that we all have is the NCAA basketball tournament, and how that evolves. And this last year was such a debacle when you realized how they treated the men versus the women.
And now it's come out by an independent study that ESPN is getting a severe discount on the women. The NCAA is so dumb. They have mispriced the women's basketball tournament by a multiple of 3 or 4. It's comical. They're missing out on money.
Well, and then they basically had a gym set up with equipment kind of like my broken glove here. I mean, it was a joke. I just thought, why wouldn't they have? That's the kind of thing where I think some of these sporting events, and maybe some of this will happen to a degree. I think the best U.S. Open I ever saw was when they did back-to-back at number 2, and they had the men one week, the women next week. So all the infrastructure was set up.
Yep.
The course is one of the great courses. They can redo the setup, shorten it, whatever.
Yep.
But use the same facility. We'll do the same thing. I mean, just like they do with all the stuff, just go to the arena there in Indianapolis and have Lucas Oil, and just have Lucas Oil be the men's tournament and then the women's tournament. And the problem was it used to be fun to go to the sub-regionals in your area. So, I would go to the games that were before the regional in Charlotte. I could get to see some games, and it was fun. The atmosphere was fun, and that probably going to go away. I don't know how they'll keep that going. I don't know.
You know what the average dollar amount of these name, image, and likeness deals has been, though, for all this talk?
Oh, $5,000 or something.
$930, and that's before taxes. Okay,
Yeah.
so it's not the end of the world. But I did want to ask you, because we got our tickets. We're going to Duke, Carolina on October 6th, I think it is. And boy, trying to get those tickets and looking at hotels, I've never seen anything like that in my 5 or 6 years looking to go to games out there. So is this the most hyped Carolina season you've seen
Uh,
in a long time?
yeah. I mean, in terms of football, uh, the last time it was hyped to a degree was in the '90s when Mac Brown was there and they won 10 or 11 games 2 years in a row, and he didn't get an invite to the Orange Bowl that time. He said, "Well, if I can't get an invite to a major bowl with that record, then that's when he went to Texas."
Is that I didn't know that. That's a good anecdote.
Yeah, and so and the previous time they were pretty good in the '70s in football. Now, obviously, we all know about basketball went for 50 years, but um,
So this is a big deal this year.
this is a big deal. It'll be interesting to see. The first game is on the road. Now, if they were to lose to Virginia Tech, then that would put a big downer for them. But you know, they pretty much brought everybody back. Coach Brown is a hell of a recruiter,
Kept his coaches too, his assistant coaches.
and he's got an NFL quarterback.
Yep.
Yeah,
Hopefully the future Panthers quarterback, because I
mean,
think
I saw this kid throw. Very first game, I said, "NFL, here we come." It was like the very first time I ever saw Luke Kuechly. You go, if he plays 6 years, 7 years, he's Hall of Fame.
and you said it, Baker Mayfield, that is a great comp. The way he's tough in the pocket, the way he's deceptively quick, the way he's got a lot of swagger. He's almost a little too dangerous. You wish he would kind of protect himself a little better. That is a great comp, the Baker Mayfield Sam Howell comp.
And he's got that he's got that great pro athlete mentality of he doesn't remember the last play.
Yep.
You know, a great golfer, Nicklaus, doesn't remember his last. He said he never missed a putt of 3 feet to win a major. Well, he did, but he doesn't remember it because that's how his brain was meant to function.
He'll keep bombing the next one. That's got to be the toughest game on the schedule, right? At Virginia Tech, week 1.
Yeah,
because other than that, Miami's ranked, but you get them at home. And by the way, I was looking at the ticket prices for that Miami game. They're triple what it's going to be for the Duke game. That's going to be a big one. And then I guess at NC State rivalry, but I don't know. I think you're at Virginia Tech. That's the toughest game on the schedule.
That's the toughest game because of where it falls on their schedule. And I don't know anything about Virginia Tech, to be honest with you. I know. Last year they played and it was like 40-41 or something. So craziness, but we'll see. You know, North Carolina had some great running backs last year that have both gone to the pros. But what somebody mentioned to me, said, well, you know, Coach Brown is not a great in-game coach. Well, no, what he is a CEO coach. So if you watch him game day, he lets the coordinators run the show. Now, if they do something stupid, he'll go over and grab them by the shirt collar and go, "What the heck was that?" But he doesn't wear earphones. He doesn't carry a clipboard. He just kind of stands there on the sideline like this and goes, "Oh, okay." And I guess, you know, if they're going to do a fake punt or something, he's in on it. But
yep. But no, he knows his role, and that's ideal in college football because unlike the NFL, there's so much more to the job. And I would argue at this point, number one is securing money from your donors to keep up with the arms race. And that's where Mac, I'm sure, is one of the best. And then recruiting. They just grabbed another 4-star linebacker from Evanston, Illinois. North Carolina should not be going into Evanston, Illinois and grabbing a 4-star linebacker, but they did. And now they have another 2023 quarterback here from Cornelius. He's got his next 2 quarterbacks right in line to keep this thing going. Their recruiting has been unbelievable.
Well, Coach Brown said on Twitter or something that he knew they were doing well now in year 3 because negative recruiting now was coming out. Last year, nobody cared about us. They thought who cared about North?
1 year wonder, yeah.
Yeah, but now he says, "Oh, you don't want to go there. He's 70 years old. He's not going to be there for your senior." You know, all that kind of recruiting. I'm sure that's Boeheim and Krzyzewski and Roy Williams had that in basketball too. So, who knows? But we'll see. We'll see. But
I would love to see an undefeated North Carolina and an undefeated Clemson here in Charlotte for the ACC championship and a pretty much play into the playoff. I think that's a dream scenario.
yeah, well, it's like all these leagues. I mean, it's like Ohio State, and Michigan, and sooner or later. I mean, Michigan hasn't beaten them now for a decade.
It's not a rivalry. You can't call it a rivalry right now.
Yeah, right now it's just gone, and I think they just administratively didn't know where else to turn at Michigan because they had brought in their savior, and to have him walk away and go back and work for his brother or something just wouldn't sit well with the alumni and stuff. So.
I will give both parties, Michigan administration and Harbaugh, credit though, because Harbaugh took the ego hit. He took a pay cut where he now has incentives if they win the Big Ten, if they win the national title, to get back to his prior compensation. And Michigan kind of realizing, who are we going to get that's really better? All these other schools just keep throwing money at the problem, kicking the can down the road. But Michigan is kind of admitting, well, Ohio State's up here and we're here for now.
Yeah. Well, like you said, it's all about the recruiting. I mean, once you establish that setup, like Dabo or like Saban or like Ohio State was unique in that they were able to pass the torch, but the facilities are so outstanding that and the money that's there, like Texas, it's just crazy.
And you mentioned earlier Mac Brown not necessarily as involved on game day. Ryan Day is a savant when it comes to game day. He's calling plays. He's involved in the defense, special teams. In terms of game day coaches, I'd put him up against just about anybody.
Yeah. Well, someday we got to do a thing where we just talk about great college stadium venues, and just got me thinking, but we'll do that for another day. But for you folks out there, if you never, Tennessee with the boats on the river, the Cockabooses at South Carolina, some of these places just really do the pregame,
I've heard Georgia is excellent.
Yeah, Georgia and Mississippi. I mean, there's just some cool places like that.
LSU.
Oh yeah, at night. I think that stadium only rocks just one step less than Camp Randall.
They brag about what is it? The earthquake. I don't know the official scientific term, but the seismic readings or whatever, they'll tweet them out, whereas in like Boston College, the locals will complain that the game is too loud or they can't park. In LSU, they're bragging about how loud it is.
Yeah. Well, their games are at 8:00 at night. And I would say that ethanol has some effect on the, on the sound gauge of those games. So we shall see. Well, anything else you want to talk about, Billy? You want to?
3 Saturdays, man. We got Illinois and Nebraska on August 28th. So actually 2 weeks ago, it was 7 Sundays till NFL football was back. So I made some buffalo chicken in the crock pot just to make sure everything was still working. I had my recipe down. So I'm just really looking forward to having a more normal football season and getting back into the routines, getting to be able to go to some games live, not having them all canceled or played at Wednesday at 3 p.m. or whatever. So I'm just really looking forward to getting back into the normal rhythm here this fall.
Well, it's funny that the Hall of Fame game was on. I usually always watch it. I didn't even turn it on because
there's too much going on with the Olympics, and I like baseball, and then this NBA free agency. Yeah. There's just been a lot going on.
Well, here I got a quote for the day here. You're gonna like this one because I had to quote for College Game Day. I had to quote Lee Corso.
Oh yeah.
So he says, "Oh, gosh, this is like a Yogi Bearism. You're gonna like this one." Coach Corso: Hawaii doesn't win many games in the United States. You got to let that sink in a little bit, people.
Oh, I can't wait to see him putting on a silly mascot head in a couple of weeks here.
That's like I've said before, that's going to be a hard one to replace, and I don't know how they'll do that because there's a unique chemistry that he has with Corso too, and because they basically treat him like their dad.
Yep.
He is their dad, age ways, and so they all defer to him and take care of him, and he has a good time, I'm sure. So,
and without him, that show would not be what it is.
No, I always look for the hat change at the end.
All right, and I'm going to keep an eye out for that Washington State Cougar flag. I forgot about that.
It's always right out front. And in fact, Reese Davis always points it out. They make a point of that. When they do all the sign stuff, and these huge Florida State or Washington State flag there. And it was really cool in the last couple of years when they had the Wild coach there. He's like kind of having John Daly as a football coach. He's now at Mississippi State. Oh, you know who I'm talking about. The head coach at
Mike Leach. Yeah,
Mike Leach. Yeah. You got to love Mike Leach. I mean, he's the greatest YouTube interview ever, but that's another thing altogether. Well, Billy, we'll do it again hopefully next week, and we'll look forward to talking to you. Good luck watching the Olympics. Another episode of Picking and Putting. You can find us on all the platforms, like us.
Subscribe, rate, review.
Yep. And we'll hope to see you again next week, folks. Bye.